Hi, it's Lynn Shuck with Healing Imbalance, and what we're about to do today is a fairly long series of different movements that you can do for your whole body that are simple, that aren't necessarily exercisey, that we dismiss as not being part of the big movement picture. We often think we need to get more movement and we decide that means a run or a walk or a swim or a whatever it is, but it usually involves a gym, equipment, and sweating. Any of the above. By the way, Clyde is probably joining us for the duration. I can't get him to leave the room. So one of the two dogs. So I'm just gonna go through these and I might explain a little bit about why we were doing them again, and I might not. One of the things we want to do is sit forward on a chair when we can, so that we stop outsourcing the work of our core muscles to the back of a chair. That doesn't mean when you're tired you shouldn't lean back, or if there's injury you shouldn't lean back, but we lean back all day. And one of the simplest ways to keep your torso strong, the core muscles aren't just these muscles in front, they run all the way around. They're what support your spine. This is a simple way to do it, is to sit forward. And then if you press your feet into the floor and sit up tall, you can feel a little bit more space between your vertebrae and a little bit more room to breathe. Because one of the other things that happens when we sit back onto the chair is we compress the front of the body and it's harder to breathe deeply, which means we're missing out on better respiratory health. So sitting forward, pressing your feet down into the floor, sitting up tall, we can breathe here. And that's really movement. When your lungs are free to move, when all the parts that house your lungs can move as the lungs inflate and deflate, that's movement. The shoulders become free to lift and lower. The ribs can spread out this way, but also in all directions, 360 degrees. They can move to the front and to the sides and to the back. And maybe those are harder for you to find right now. Maybe you can only feel a little movement up here, but we want to get everything moving. So the breath is movement. And then we can add arm movements, and simply taking the arms up overhead and bringing them back down, and you could reach them forward and up and back and behind you. So not only is this moving your shoulder joints and keeping those joints lubricated and agile, but it is moving the lymph nodes. When we move an area of the body where there are lymph nodes, we move lymphatic fluid. That's how lymph nodes work, is by the movement in that area. So we have lymph nodes here, we have lymph nodes here, we have lymph nodes down here at the groin, we have lymph nodes between the lungs, and there's some at the back of the knees too. So those are the biggest lymph nodes in our body, and we want to move the areas. So the fact that we sort of restrict our movements to keeping everything right in front of us limits our arm movement. And if we can take our arms up high, maybe put the highest you can comfortably reach in your house, and that might be here, that's fine. But getting your arms up every day to reach something that you use daily. Another arm movement we talked about in the event where I originally taught this was the arm swing. And so when we're walking, we sometimes think we need to pump our arms fast or else we're not working hard. But we're missing an opportunity that happens when you're walking. An arm swing tends to be long arms. This is for running. This is for walking, but we tend to just reach forward, forward, forward. But the back swing, that's where we not only wake up these triceps, these muscles that we wish would stay toned, but we keep the torso upright. This is part of the back muscles that hold your spine upright. So you can work on your back swing, and also notice if your arms go across, see if you can make them go front to back. That will keep your chest open, and again, work toward keeping your torso more upright. All of these things feed your breath, feed better alignment through your upper body. So that's a couple ways you can move your arms. The arm swing and just getting your arms up and out and around. You can move them however you like to get those movements, but just move them. Sorry, I can get a little irate. So let's get into the hands. Simple hand movement would be to curl up your fingers into a fist really slowly and then spread them out. Now I'm going to put up my hands high so you can see it a little better, curling them up and spreading them out. And I'm trying to articulate the joints as much as I can. Imagine really squeezing very dense clay as you bring your hands in and trying to open up your hands through wet sand. So you're using a lot of these little teeny muscles between your finger joints and in your hand that we don't think of using. You'll also feel your forearms probably. Good, and then relax. That's a way to increase circulation, but also increase strength and mobility in your hands. Let's do something a little more passive for that mobility. I'm gonna take my hand out in front of me and I'm gonna drop my fingers down so my palm is facing forward, not up to the ceiling. And then I'm gonna grab my pinky and I'm just gonna pull on it and I'm gonna stretch. And I'm just gonna hold that. If your fingers don't straighten, you can put a thumb behind your knuckle and press there for a little leverage. Go between your fingers to get to your ring finger. So you're not going in front, you're going between. So you're just doing the ring finger and again, pulling back. And then we're gonna do the middle finger and check in and see. Sometimes the hand palm goes up to the ceiling without us realizing it. It's just comfortably down. And then first finger. And then let's take all the fingers and spread that thumb out. Reach the thumb out with your own effort to the side. Good, good, good. And we'll let that go. Let's take the other side. So again, not palm to the ceiling, but palm forward, grab the pinky. And forward is relative. How far does your wrist move? That's where you put it, comfortable. Go between the fingers to get to your ring finger. You can use that thumb on the back of a knuckle for leverage. You can hold this for as little or as long as you like. Middle finger. Oh, my palm started to go up, so I pull my palm forward again. First finger. And then after we do all the four, we can do, each individually, we do all four at once, and we pull that thumb out to the side. We spend so much time with our fingers curled in around tools, around silverware, around knitting needles, curled over a mouse, over a keyboard. Stretching them out is useful. It doesn't have to be what we just did. It could be any kind of stretching your fingers against something. My mom likes to use the steering wheel. When she's at a stop sign, she'll take one hand and put her fingers on the steering wheel. Whatever works for you. So we did one last thing that was not just for the hands, but also for the wrists, the forearms, and it gets a little into the shoulders. Again, I'm referencing an event that I taught, but anybody can be using this and benefiting from it. I'm going to start with my palms forward and I'm going to push my hands out in front of me. And then I'm going to make a fist with my knuckles up to the ceiling and then knuckles down to the floor. And then I'm going to keep the wrist bent and bring my wrist back toward my shoulders, little T-Rex arms, and we unfold the fingers. And we push forward and knuckles up and knuckles down and wrist to shoulders, more like wrist to armpits, and open the fingers. Push forward, knuckles up, knuckles down, T-Rex arms. One more we'll do. Unfold the hands, push forward, knuckles up, knuckles down, T-Rex arms. And the fact that this really gets into some of these forearm muscles means you could just work the wrist. You could make fists and take your knuckles down and knuckles up and knuckles down and knuckles up. And where you have your arms will change how much that pulls on you. If you're rotated, if you're not rotated. Yeah, Clyde is, now you're going to see the OCD-ness of the newest member of our household. He will spin, he will lick the walls. He's lovely. He has some mental health issues. All right, let's move into the feet. And let's just start with something really, really simple. We're gonna go up on the toes, and then, and we'll do that a few times, just lifting the heels up. I'm gonna turn slightly. Much of what we're gonna do today can be done seated. Couple things we'll do that are standing. Do you have to do all of them? No. And then I'm gonna have to move my feet out a little bit. We're gonna try and lift the forefoot. And lift the forefoot, and lift the forefoot. So now we're using these muscles on the front of the shins and the top of the foot. Now, if I want to get my brain involved a little, I can change it up a little, and I can lift one heel and one forefoot, and then put them down and lift the other heel, other forefoot. Now you could stay really slow and do heel, forefoot, down, heel, forefoot, down, or you can start to make them switch more smoothly. Where you at? You work where you're at. It doesn't matter where I'm at. So we're starting to feel the lower leg, the foot, the calf getting warmed up here. Let's take that a little further and take one leg out in front and just point and flex. Just a straightforward point and flex. This is a nice thing to do when you've been still for a long time, getting up first thing in the morning before you put weight on your feet, or if you've been sitting for a long time or have to sit for a long time, say you're on a plane or on a long car trip. Now we can do another movement at the ankle, which is more of a circle, and you want to make it smooth and slow. So I don't want to go real fast. I want to go slowly, because then I'm strengthening the muscles on either side of my ankle, as well as maintaining mobility, and then we'll go the other way, and you'll notice it's pretty slow. And then let's do the other foot. And circling nice and slow, using your toes if they will participate. And going the other way. One of the reasons we're working with the extremities is because moving all your parts actually helps pump blood back to your heart. And we neglect these little parts, thinking they don't matter that much. And we think getting our heart rate up requires big movement, and actually this is helping your heart as well, because all these little blood vessels only can pump blood back to your heart if the muscles around them constrict and release and constrict and release, and that's what helps pump blood back to your heart. Those ankle circles, when you hold your leg out in front of you, you're going to hold your leg still because you're using these muscles to hold your leg out in front of you. But if you were relaxed with your feet on the floor or lying in bed, it's very common for the whole leg to turn. So if you're lying in bed doing that, you're going to have to think about keeping the thighs still in order to really put this down to your feet. So just a piece of information. If your backs of your heels are on the floor, or if you're sitting on the floor or lying down in your bed and you do this, watch those thighs, and we want to keep them. I mean, you can let them move all you want, but you'll get more ankle strength and ankle mobility if you remove the leg movement from it. A couple things about the feet. There were questions in the event about plantar fasciitis, and one of the simplest things is to shift a little bit of weight on your heels, so that you're not over the middle of your foot, over the little bony parts of your foot, which is also directly over the plantar fascia. If you can get over your heel joint more, the bottom of your foot can relax, and you'll also often feel the lower back relax and the pelvic floor relax. This led us into a big conversation about the pelvic floor. One of the best ways to get the pelvic floor to lengthen, which we rarely do as a culture, is to tip forward with your butt sticking out. So you don't want to go over it's not about going over far, but it's about letting your hips kick back behind you, feeling the front of your pelvis come forward towards your thighs. You can do this while you're washing your face or brushing your teeth or blow drying your hair. You can do it if you're picking up something lightweight, like I unload the dishwasher this way. I get all the forks and then I get all the spoons, rather than hunching over, picking things up and putting them on the counter in front of me, and again, reducing movement. I want to add movement. So you're in your own home, you can stick your butt out behind you. Sticking with this pelvic floor, but also with the feet, we're going to set the feet up one foot in front of the other, just a comfortable distance apart. And you want to be able to be upright and keep both legs straight. The other thing I'd like you to notice is check and see if you can get your toes pointed forward. We have a tendency to have that back foot slightly turned out. So to whatever degree you can, toes pointed forward. I'm going to turn sideways. I have weight on 2 feet right now. I'm going to shift my weight more onto my front leg and then come back to 2 feet. So I'm more on 1 foot. There's some weight in my toes, and on 2 feet. And as I do this, I stay really upright and my back leg stays straight. So now I'm creating more hip extension. I'm actually working on pelvic floor extension. I'm working on foot strength. I'm building a little bit of glute and hamstring strength. Lots of good things going on here. So let's turn around and do the other side, or step the other foot forward and do the other side. I want my hips to come forward evenly so that I don't do one of these. I actually want to think of my hips coming forward evenly, and I want to stay really upright. If you find you're bending over, you probably took too big a stance. And it's helpful of you, Clyde, to block the camera like that. Thank you. Okay. So we're going to sit back down. And I had to check my notes. We're going to bring this up into the head and shoulders. So let's start with taking the ear over to one shoulder and then rolling your chin forward and over to the other shoulder. And we're just going to do a half circle to the front. And if it feels better to you to hold still somewhere, you're welcome to hold still somewhere. If you continue to move, you could connect your breath to it. I usually inhale as I go up to the side and exhale as I come forward. Whenever I can connect my breath to my movement, I'll breathe a little more deeply than I normally do, a little more conscientiously. So we're going to bring the chin to the chest, and we're going to keep the chest lifted, letting the chin hang forward. And then we're going to bring the head upright and lace your fingers behind your head so that your first finger cups the base of your skull. And then, because we tend to live a little bit out here, we're going to try and pull the base of our head into those fingers and draw the elbows back. So there's quite a bit of effort here in the arms, in the sides of your torso, and in your neck and throat and back and front. A lot of things going here as I draw my head into my hands and keep the elbows wide. And we'll release that. And let's take that one more time. We lace the fingers here. We draw the base of the head. It's going to pull your chin in a little. Draw the base of your head back into your hands and open the elbows. If you think about a car, the seat of a car, the headrest is usually a little forward. And then we, as a people, tend to drive like this. See if you can imagine bringing the base of your head toward that headrest, whether you're in a car or not, just once in a while, because we spend a lot of time hunched forward, over a book, over a table, over a phone, over a keyboard. So finding that chin coming in and the base of your head drawing back. I talked about how we want to have move in the areas where we have lymph nodes, and the groin is one of them. And you can do something as simple as taking a leg out to the side and bringing it back in, and then going to the other side and bringing it back in. And you can feel a nice little stretch in here, depending on how far you go. And you're only going as far as is comfortable. This doesn't have to be huge. And I am letting my hips move, my pelvis move, that is. But something as simple as this movement, it's a lovely movement. And then we're going to sit up tall, feet in front of you. So I'm still not leaning back on the chair. What I'd like to do is I'm going to mirror you. So bring your right shoulder back and take your right hand behind you. You can grab onto the chair if you like. Take your left arm across. You could even look back over your right shoulder. Breathe in here. And then we'll face front. And now we'll pull the left shoulder back, which starts to twist you. You can grab your chair behind you if you'd like. Take your right arm across your thighs. You could turn to look back over your left shoulder. Breathing here. It is harder to breathe deeply here because when you're twisting, one of the lobes of your lungs gets compressed. But we still want to breathe as deeply as we can. And then we face front again. Twisting is one of those things that we don't tend to do in our daily life anymore. We've even removed the last place where we would do it, which is to turn and look when you're driving, and now we have cameras and we just can look at the camera. So, you know, we want to be able to turn our head, but we want to twist more of the spine. We want the whole thing really mobile. And this is so simple. It doesn't have to be really forceful. It's a lovely, lovely, easy way to move. So I think we're almost done. Yep. All right. So the last thing I want to end with is a really simple breathing. And the first thing I'd like you to do is place one or both hands on your chest. And as you inhale, picture your inhale reaching towards your hands and your exhale coming away from your hands. And this is the way we're most comfortable breathing. Now I'm going to change it up on you. So I want you to think of inhaling away from your hands. You're going to inhale into the back of your body between your shoulder blades. And you're going to exhale towards your hands. And so when you inhale, you might feel your back expanding, and when you exhale, your shoulder blades come in a little toward each other. Trying to inhale toward the back of the body and exhaling forward. And it's okay if it's not going well. And relax. When we talk about in yoga, often you'll hear yoga people talk about chakras, which are energy centers. And the heart chakra is where we experience compassion for others, for ourselves. That forward breathing, that inhale to the front of your heart center sits at sternum height. That's that compassion for outward, taking care of others. And when we try and inhale into the back of the heart, that's compassion for ourselves, caring for ourselves. It's hard to breathe there. There's a whole lot of possibility of movement through the back of our lungs that we restrict ourselves from, either because we're hunched over or because we try and stand up straight and we constrict all these muscles in the upper back. And so we're just going to be relaxed and see if we can inhale that way and exhale forward. And you just keep working on it. Doesn't matter if you ever get good at it. I think that was everything that we did in our session. I knew there was one other thing. One last thing. When you go to get up, everybody at the session was able to do this, but I'm offering this to anybody who's watching. Can you get up without your hands? Now you might, thank you. You might have to lean way forward to do it. But if you're always using both hands, maybe you start with using one hand. If you're always putting both hands on your thighs, maybe you try and use one hand on your thigh. And so you're going to work toward not having to use your arms, and you're going to try and remember to not use your arms sometimes during the day, and getting on and off the toilet is a great place to do it. It usually tends to be a pretty good height, and it tends to be a hard enough surface. So I leave that with you as well, because if you think about it, it's a squat. Anybody who says they can't do squats, I ask them if they sit in chairs. And so your squat right now might require a lot of support, and maybe you start taking away some of the support at a time, or maybe you switch which side so that you use your muscles a little differently, and eventually you use less support and less support and less support. That was everything that we did, I'm pretty sure. Anyway, there's lots of movement ideas if you want to dig deep into all the YouTube videos that are on here. Some will be appropriate for you and some will not. And so, you know, you do what you do. But I'm grateful that any of you joined me today. And those of you who were at the event where all of this happened, it was lovely to work with you then. Okay, go.